It was 03:00 a.m., the hour of the wolf, deep in the choking blackness of the North African desert, November 1942. For 72 grueling hours, Sergeant David Mac McDowell, a British reconnaissance scout, had been listening to the same relentless, terrifying symphony. The sound was absolute confirmation. The constant low, rhythmic roar of nearly 90,000 German troops encircled and preparing for a final, desperate stand. The metallic grind of panzer tracks, the distinctive high-pitched whine of radio traffic, and the guttural shouts of German command all promised a major bloody confrontation at dawn. Mac advanced, his rifle raised, waiting for the defensive fire. But as the first cold sliver of pre-dawn light began to cut through the horizon, it stopped completely. A paralyzing silence. Mac's training screamed ambush as he cautiously entered the main German perimeter. He found no desperate men, no prepared resistance, and no tanks. Only silence and the faint scent of stale gasoline. In a flash of horrifying realization, he understood. This wasn't a trap. This was a lie. Rommel's entire ghost army, tanks, men, and guns, had simply vanished overnight, leaving only an illusion to hold the line. The core of a classified operation that defied military logic. The backdrop for Rommel's ghost army was the grim aftermath of the Second Battle of El Alamein in November 1942, a conflict that marked the definitive end of Axis hopes in North Africa. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, despite his legendary status as the Desert Fox, found his combined German and Italian forces, the Afrika Korps, not merely defeated, but on the verge of total collapse. They were critically outmatched and strategically exposed, facing a British 8th Army under General Bernard Montgomery that wielded a massive superiority in both manpower and firepower. The British fielded nearly 200,000 men against the Axis 90,000, crucially maintaining a tank advantage of 3-1. The theater of operations was the unforgiving Egyptian desert, a landscape where heat, sand, and the vast, open terrain dictated that the true strategic factor was logistics, not merely tactical genius. For the Axis, holding the line near El Alamein was the last barrier protecting the vital Suez Canal. However, the continuous, crippling failures of German supply lines across the Mediterranean, constantly harassed by Allied air and naval power, meant that Rommel's formidable armored divisions were starved of fuel, ammunition, and replacement parts. His panzers were turning into inert steel monuments. The German High Command faced a terminal choice: fight a futile last stand leading to certain capture or annihilation, or attempt an impossible, unprecedented strategic withdrawal to save the core of the fighting force. Rommel chose the latter, but it demanded an extraordinary measure of deception. His objective was clear: to salvage a critical mass of his army, the Ghost Army, from destruction. A task that required him to completely fool Montgomery's powerful intelligence machine into believing his forces remained entrenched. The Ghost Army was the tactical masterpiece of Rommel's desperate necessity, a plan built entirely on psychological warfare and elaborate operational deception. Rommel knew that any conventional daytime retreat would be instantly spotted by the pervasive British Royal Air Force and turned into a catastrophic rout. Therefore, the battle had to shift from a clash of tanks to a contest of illusions. The core of this classified operation was the creation and deployment of dummy tanks. Hundreds of lightweight frames constructed from wood and canvas, meticulously designed to mimic the silhouette of panzer tanks and artillery when viewed from a distance or the air. These phantom vehicles were strategically positioned to maintain the density of the forward defensive line, creating the persistent desert lie that a massive force was still ready to fight. Complementing this visual trickery was an ingenious radio deception. Specialized skeleton crews remained in the abandoned camps, operating simple radio transmitters to continuously broadcast high-volume, standardized communications. This traffic, mimicking daily command, logistics requests, and general tactical chatter, was specifically designed to saturate British signals intelligence, SIG-INT, ensuring the enemy's analysts would conclude, based on the sheer volume of communication, that the Axis command structure was fully active and present. Internally, the secrecy was absolute. The actual withdrawal of the real Africa Corps was conducted at night, adhering to strict radio silence, utilizing minimal, concealed routes across the trackless desert. Only the most senior officers and the deception teams were aware of the full plan, a measure designed to prevent any captured soldier from inadvertently revealing the truth. This strict information control created an effective lost files scenario for the enemy, where all gathered tactical data pointed to a non-existent threat. Rommel's profound understanding of the desert's capacity for visual distortion, combined with his brilliant exploitation of the British reliance on signals intelligence, turned a moment of military weakness into a calculated strategic escape, saving the vital core of his armored strength for future battles. The definitive success of Rommel's Ghost Army was achieved through a masterful exploitation of human and technological perspectives. The most direct view of the deception belonged to Captain Alistair Reid, a signals intelligence specialist with the British 8th Army. Reid's job was to monitor and analyze the massive volume of German radio traffic in the days leading up to the expected final British push. His perspective was one of growing professional assurance. His intercepts confirmed continuous German communications, orders for supplies, tactical movements, and daily administrative reports. This absolute volume of noise convinced Reid and his superiors that a massive, defiant force remained entrenched and preparing to counterattack. The full shock came when Reed's team entered the abandoned Axis camp and found the source. Simple, low-power radio transmitters playing pre-recorded, looping communication tapes. The deception was so flawlessly executed, employing correct call signs and frequencies, that it rendered all of Reed's diligently recorded lost files of signals data utterly meaningless. This revealed the terrifying simplicity and genius of the classified operation. The technological dimension of the Ghost Army was brilliantly low-tech. The core deception relied on the creation of hundreds of dummy tanks, not complex inflatable models, but lightweight frames constructed from readily available materials like palm fronds, canvas, and sheet metal, often mounted on simple wooden wheels. When viewed from a distance on the ground, or critically, from the air under the refracting heat haze of the desert sun, the resulting shadows and silhouettes made them visually indistinguishable from genuine Panzer tanks. This effective visual deception was amplified by the Axis forces' careful maintenance of false tracks around the perimeter of the ghost camps, ensuring British reconnaissance pilots would report high concentrations of genuine armor. The deceptive power lay not in advanced technology, but in a profound understanding of the limitations of human perception in the harsh desert environment. The perspective from within the retreating Ghost Army revealed a disciplined chaos. Private Hans Müller, a German truck driver, later wrote of the retreat as a desperate logistical marathon. Müller's task was to transport essential spare parts under the cloak of night, adhering to strict radio silence. He described the unsettling process of meticulously wiping away all fresh tire tracks in specific open areas to prevent easy British aerial pursuit. For these soldiers, the psychological conflict was intense. They were abandoning the territory they had fought so hard for, yet they were simultaneously saving their strength. Müller noted the strange, conflicting emotions. A sense of shame at leaving behind the empty dummy camps, but grim satisfaction at the knowledge of the confusion they were deliberately leaving behind for the enemy. The entire operation was a silent, nocturnal ghost operation. The ethical and political dilemma focused on General Montgomery, the British commander. He faced intense criticism after the event for his characteristic caution, which allowed Rommel to execute the withdrawal so cleanly. Montgomery consistently argued that the persistent intelligence, the continuous radio traffic, and the aerial photographs confirming the large force made a reckless, unprepared pursuit an unacceptable risk. His ethical priority, to protect his own troops versus the pressure to relentlessly destroy the enemy, was flawlessly exploited by Rommel. The desert lie forced Montgomery into a defensive posture, buying Rommel days and allowing him to establish a new, viable defensive line further west. A final, tragic perspective came from the Italian forces within the Afrika Korps. Unbeknownst to them, the deception operation was also a tool of internal betrayal. Rommel intentionally used his Italian units as a transparent delaying screen to cover the withdrawal of his most valuable German panzer divisions. The deception was effective against the enemy, but its side effect was a brutal internal fracture. The Italian forces were often left behind with minimal support or accurate information regarding the full extent of the German withdrawal. This internal fracture, revealed later through captured documents, confirmed Rommel's ruthlessness and the primary objective of the Ghost Army: to save the German core. The entire operation, the radio noise, the wooden tanks, and the deceptive calm, was a sustained psychological assault that paralyzed the enemy with fear and doubt, ensuring that Rommel's army survived to fight another day. The definitive turning point of Rommel's Ghost Army arrived not with the roar of tank guns, but with the chilling realization of an absolute, devastating void. The moment of profound truth dawned at 08:00 a.m. on the day of the planned British final, crushing assault. The previous night, the British 8th Army had conducted a massive preparatory artillery barrage, raining thousands of shells onto the German defensive line, fully expecting to break the remaining resistance and capture a large, demoralized enemy force. When the barrage was lifted, reconnaissance units, including Sergeant Mac McDowell, moved into the forward positions, anticipating the grim, expected spectacle of heavy devastation. What they found, instead, was something far more psychologically unsettling: perfect, orchestrated stillness. There were no struggling survivors, no lines of dazed prisoners, and no scattered, desperate field hospitals. The only signs of recent activity were the radio loops still playing their endless, mechanical chatter and the cold, unmoving silence of the dummy tanks. The British command, receiving the first panicked reports of an entirely empty sector, was instantly thrown into a state of acute confusion and disbelief. Every piece of intelligence, signals, aerial visual confirmation, and prior prisoner interrogations had been categorically wrong. Rommel had not been defeated. He had simply, unbelievably, vanished. This realization created an immediate, crippling crisis of confidence within General Montgomery's staff. How could an entire army, estimated to be over 90,000 strong, with thousands of vehicles, simply disappear under the nose of a technologically superior force? The inspection of the abandoned lines revealed the core of the deception. Entire batteries of artillery were merely wooden poles disguised with canvas, and the panzers that British pilots had so confidently photographed were flimsy, hollow shells, the visual proof of the Ghost Army. This act of strategic deception was not merely camouflage. It was a profound psychological operation designed by a tactical genius to achieve paralysis. The British forces, already fatigued by the preceding weeks of heavy fighting, were instantly hampered by immense doubt. The immediate instinct was not a relentless, swift pursuit, but one of overwhelming caution. Was this a trap? Was Rommel waiting in reserve with a powerful, concealed armored unit, cunningly drawing them into a deeper counter-ambush. This moment of psychological paralysis was the true intended weapon of the Desert Lie, allowing the real Axis forces to continue their unmolested retreat. The immediate consequence was the revelation that the British had expended thousands of tons of precious ammunition pounding an army of ghosts. While the Axis forces had suffered heavy losses in the initial stages of the Battle of El Alamein, the flawless execution of the withdrawal meant that Rommel had successfully salvaged a vital core force of approximately 30,000 German and Italian troops and several hundred crucial tanks, all of which were rapidly withdrawing towards the west. This saved force represented the remaining effective armored and operational capability of the Axis in North Africa. The consequence was that the war in North Africa, which Montgomery had believed was on the brink of conclusion, was suddenly prolonged, forcing the British to engage in weeks of a grueling, difficult pursuit instead of a rapid mop-up operation. The moment the British realized the full scale of the Phantom Army became the definitive step that validated Rommel's tactical genius for evasion. The full shock extended to the intelligence community. Captain Reed's signals team was immediately subjected to intense internal scrutiny, their detailed lost files of intercepted German radio traffic now viewed as useless deception. The subsequent technical analysis revealed that the radio traffic was so meticulously executed, utilizing correct call signs, authentic frequencies, and even operator signatures, that no human analyst could have distinguished it from a genuine command structure. This confirmed the comprehensive nature of Rommel's classified operation. The enduring psychological impact on the British frontline troops was immense. After weeks of fierce fighting and the belief that decisive victory was imminent, the discovery of the wooden dummy tanks felt like a profound sense of betrayal, a cruel mockery of their efforts. This psychological defeat, though temporary, was exactly the goal of the Ghost Army. Rommel had robbed the British of the clean, morale-boosting victory they craved. The seamless withdrawal, executed perfectly along concealed routes, was the final triumphant act of deception, ensuring that the Ghost Army he saved would prolong the conflict and fight another day. The successful execution of Rommel's Ghost Army was a tactical victory that yielded immense strategic consequences, ultimately cementing Field Marshal Rommel's legend as the undisputed master of operational maneuver and calculated deception. The most significant immediate military outcome was the preservation of the Afrika Korps' core fighting capability. By salvaging approximately 30,000 troops and several hundred crucial panzer units, Rommel denied the British the clean, total annihilation they sought at El Alamein. Had these forces been captured or destroyed, the Allied advance would have been rapid and decisive. Instead, the British Eighth Army was forced into a grinding, difficult pursuit across hundreds of miles of unforgiving desert, consuming valuable time and resources, and allowing the Axis forces to establish subsequent, difficult defensive lines further west. The political and psychological ramifications for the British command were profound. The revelation of the desert lie led to immediate, intense scrutiny of British intelligence methodologies. General Montgomery, though often criticized for his characteristic caution, found his defensive posture retrospectively justified, as the intelligence he received, the continuous radio traffic and confirming aerial photographs, pointed unequivocally to the presence of a massive, active German force. The incident highlighted a major vulnerability in signals intelligence when confronted with a dedicated, sophisticated deception plan. The lost files, the detailed radio logs proving the continuous German chatter, were exhaustively analyzed for years to understand precisely how the simple trick of looping broadcasts and dummy equipment had managed to fool the entire British signals apparatus. This operational failure was a critical driver in the subsequent development of new, more rigorous, multi-source intelligence verification protocols among the Allied forces. The long-term impact on strategic military doctrine was immense. The Desert Lie became a definitive case study in the power of ghost operations and psychological warfare. It proved that simple visual deception, combined with flawless radio noise discipline, could successfully neutralize a technologically superior enemy force, effectively paralyzing their pursuit and slowing their advance. Rommel's tactical genius lay not in fighting, but in vanishing, forcing the enemy to contend with an army that, tragically for the British, did not physically exist. This operation became essential study material for military strategists in post-war academies, teaching the enduring lesson that intelligence must always be confirmed by multiple physical sources, and that the simplest lie, executed perfectly, can be the most effective weapon. On the German side, the success of the Ghost Army provided a much-needed psychological boost amid the strategic retreat, reinforcing the myth of the Desert Fox as a commander who could achieve the impossible with minimal resources. Ultimately, this brilliant act of evasion did not change the final outcome of the North African campaign, but it fundamentally altered its timeline and stands as a timeless testament to the power of operational deception,